Namaste. My name is Rohil and today I'm going to be explaining to you the benefits of breath work. So this is a longish video where I'm going to really be talking about each and every benefit of breathwork and pranayam. Pranayam is a practice within the yoga traditions where we are controlling our life force through the breath. So I'm going to speak about the breath's impact on our nervous system, the impact of the breath on our digestive system, on our immunity, also on our energy systems, so our vitality, and then finally towards the end of the video I'm going to go through a few patterns of breathing that are very important for a healthy way of living. And so I'm just going to be explaining what are the correct methods of breathing. So we're just going to finish up with that towards the end. So this is just a video that's completely explanatory. We are not going to really do any practices here. So I'm just going to explain to you the various benefits of breathwork and hopefully inspire you to sort of take up breathwork as a practice on your own. So the breath is one thing that can be done both consciously or unconsciously. So we can breathe either by being aware of the breath every time we take a breath, or we can be completely unconscious about the process, never really thinking twice about how we are breathing, are we even breathing, are we breathing deeply, shallow, etc. So the breath is something that is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is a part of the nervous system that is there for automatic processes, so that we don't have to consciously always be aware of it. These are for processes within the body that are crucial to our survival, and so it cannot be in the hands of us being aware of it. It has to happen regardless of whether we're aware, even conscious or not. And so breath is one of those things that is, because it's so vital to our survival, it's being taken care of by the autonomic nervous system. However, the breath is something that is very anchoring, that can bring us completely into the present moment when we use it consciously. And so it's one of those things that really the essence of living can be found in the breath, because each and every one of us, regardless of our cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, our age, ethnicity, gender, we are all united by the breath. We all can take that inhale, that exhale. Even we are even united with other animals, with plants, with animals in the sea. Every single being has to breathe to survive, and breathing is sort of something crucial, so crucial and so fundamental that all of us just take for granted. So in the ancient yogic traditions, they believe that breath is equated with life, and that means that we come into this life with a set number of breaths. The quicker we breathe through these breaths, the quicker we die. The slower we breathe through these breaths, the longer we live. So the breath was somehow related to longevity, and that means that when we breathe longer and deeper, we are somehow increasing our vital systems and increasing our general health. So today, according to WebMD, the average human being breathes about 16 breaths a minute, and it's well documented in many scientific journals, medical journals, that when we have a fever, when we have a flu, or we have some kind of chronic illness, it can be diabetes, it can be heart related issues, it can be any problem, any illness that we have, it increases our breath rate. So we start to breathe more breaths per minute, and this increase in the breath rate is also adversely causing more issues and problems with the body. So even when we are, say for instance, we are stressed, we are anxious, this is also going to increase your breath rate. You're going to breathe much faster when you're anxious and when you're stressed. So the whole system of yoga as a practice of pranayama, of meditation, of the asana is all geared towards calming down and slowing down that breath rate. So they believe that anybody who breathes more than 11 breaths a minute can be considered to be unhealthy. And according to the yogic system, somebody who is proficient in pranayama, in these practices, should be breathing no more than 5 breaths a minute. And what this does is, the slower and the longer your breath becomes, the more subtle your consciousness, your state of mind becomes. Your mind gains a clarity. You are not constantly plagued by incessant thought, so you can calm down the mind. Breath is one of the short ways to calm down the mind, to calm stress, anxiety, fears. All of these negative emotions can really be accessed and set aside by using the breath. And I would really like you to think about other species, other animals, and the way they breathe and their state of mind. So if you notice a dog, when a dog is excited, for instance, it's panting, it's really breathing very fast. On the other hand, notice animals that are very calm, very serene, like the elephant, like a tortoise, very slow, very precise. They also live many more years than animals that pant, like big cats, like a tiger, lion. They are breathing very fast, and their longevity, their life is also shorter. So generally, and you can see this sort of phenomena repeating itself in nature as well. It's not only universal to the human species, it's universal to all species. So one of the main things when we speak about the breath, we're speaking about how, and when we speak especially about certain breathing techniques, certain pranayama techniques, we're really speaking about uh, the nervous system and how we can use breath to calm, to pacify the nervous system. So we all have a nervous system that is geared towards managing different systems in our body. Our nervous system is managing the hormones. So the nervous system, because the nervous system is dealing with all the information, our information that is within our body and information that is outside of us in our environment. And so the nervous system is relaying all this information from our environment to our brain. Our brain then is sort of making a analysis of this information, producing some answer, and again sending it to the nervous system. And so the nervous system is in charge of making sure that all the different aspects of our body, of our system, are functioning well and functioning in cohesion with each other. So the nervous system regulates the endocrine system. So the endocrine system is responsible for the way hormones are being released in the body. So you have different kinds of hormones that are being released at different times, which make you feel a certain way, which either make you feel sleepy or alert and awake. There are hormones that are released when you're stressed. There are hormones that are released when you're relaxing. And all of this is regulated through the nervous system. So mainly there is a section, a part of the peripheral nervous system, which is called the autonomic nervous system. And this autonomic nervous system is controlling all the automatic processes. So it's controlling the way you breathe, it's controlling your heart rate, it's controlling your internal organs, your vital organs, all the internal processes, your endocrine system, the way the glands are producing different hormones. So essentially this is it's a very important part of the functioning of our body. And the autonomic nervous system can be divided into two sections. One is the sympathetic nervous system, and the second is the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight response within our nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest response. So in the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, when we go into that mode, when there's a stressor in our environment, there's either there's something that's putting you in danger, or there's some situation which requires you to really put in a lot of work. Immediately you become alert. You have to comply to some deadline, whatever it might be. The sympathetic nervous system becomes activated, and when the sympathetic nervous system becomes activated, there's a flood of energy that is flowing through your body. You're going to have hormones like cortisol, which is linked to stress, which is going to release, and this is going to produce an alertness and an increased vitality and energy within your body. So this is done so that you have the resources to deal with that stressful situation. But nowadays in our life, we are remaining in the sympathetic nervous system for far too long, and this leads to states of chronic stress and thus eventually burnout and adrenal fatigue, because your adrenal glands, which are just located directly above the kidney, are activated, and they produce adrenaline and cortisol when we are in this stressed or anxious situations. So this is where the breath comes in. When we do a particular kinds of breathing, when we do alternate nostril breath works, most of our traditional pranayama practices in India are geared towards calming down the sympathetic response. So the sympathetic response of the nervous system is placated and the parasympathetic response is activated. And by doing that, by activating the parasympathetic response, other hormones are produced which allow us to rest and relax and to recuperate. So we need the parasympathetic response to be active, to actually feel good in our body, to actually recover from the stress. If we are constantly stressed, constantly in that alert situation, we are eventually going to lead to fatigue, and as we age, as we grow older, these effects are going to multiply. So we want some practice that is allowing us to completely tune and tone down our nervous system, and this is what these breathing practices do. So one important way, and I'm going to keep coming back to the parasympathetic nervous system and how different practices affect it. In the end, when we do the analysis, we're going to also speak more about this particular system and how different breathing exercises, how exactly are they affecting the parasympathetic nervous system. So breathing, just to end the section on the nervous system, breathing as a practice is really what it is geared to do, what it is trying to do is it's trying to detoxify the nervous system. So the toxins in the nervous system are not the same kind of toxins in your digestive system. So they are not food-based toxins. These toxins are more, you can say, impulse or energy-based toxins. So what I mean by that is, for instance, you're somebody who, I don't know, there are people who drink a lot of caffeine in the day or smoke a lot of cigarettes, are constantly on edge. There is a jitteriness to themselves, so they are sort of always on edge, always slightly anxious, slightly not comfortable in their own body, in the space, and this is because of being overworked. The mind is running, too many thoughts in the mind. You're not really grounded, and this is a toxin of the nervous system. The nervous system has become toxified, and through the breath work we are detoxifying it. So all these habits of smoking cigarettes, chronic smoking, caffeine, chronic caffeine addiction, all of these are creating that sort of jitteriness. You're on edge in your nervous system, and ultimately the whole practice of yoga is to placate and to come into that calm serenity, and that happens by, first of all, impacting the nervous system. The second aspect that I wish to speak about in terms of the benefits of pranayama or any breath work is its impact on our metabolism, on our digestive process. And a lot of people don't really pay heed to this. They usually think it's mostly just the nutrition, and it's I don't know, it's the way we eat and the way we exercise that is affecting our digestive system. But it's not true. The breath plays a key role in its impact on the digestive system. And the first, of course, is again linked to the nervous system, which I was just explaining. The parasympathetic response, when we are get into that, we are going into the rest and digest phase, and what that means is the body is signaling, first of all, to the thyroid gland to start functioning, which boosts your metabolism. So if you have any thyroid issues, hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, these are all linked to being too much in that stress zone. And just by breathing in the right way on a daily basis, also incorporating some pranayama practices, you're automatically going to start to feel better, digest better, improve your metabolism. Of course, there are certain practices in pranayam like Kapalbhati and Bhastrika, which also directly stoke and increase the Agni or the digestive fire. So in Ayurveda, a very important aspect of Ayurveda is of tending to that inner fire, our inner digestive fire, and we eat certain kinds of foods, we do certain kinds of practices to keep that fire going strong. So there are no amma, or what they call amma, which is toxins that start to percolate in different parts of the system, in the digestive tract, the gastrointestinal tract, and other parts. So we are trying to completely sort of remove that stagnancy, and by breathing, when we do a pranayam practice, we are breathing very deeply. We are sort of filling our body up not only with oxygen but other gases that are also important, and through that process also removing stagnation, removing toxins in different parts of the body. So there is a detoxification process, and we are also increasing the oxygen that is required by our digestive process, and a whole host of other benefits that come with breathing the right way. So I've spoken about two. I've spoken about the nervous system as well as digestion. Now the third aspect where breath helps is how it helps and regulates the immune system function. So our immune system is very closely linked to the breath. If we breathe in the wrong way, if we are hyperventilating all the time or breathing through the mouth all the time, and I'm going to come to this towards the end of the session where we analyze the breath and break each and every part of what is the right way to breathe. I'm going to revisit these concepts, but whenever we don't breathe in the right way, we are hampering our immune system. And just by starting to breathe longer and deeper, our immunity is boosted. So I'm going to speak about it from one aspect. Of course, there's a lot of research on how breath actually improves the immunity, but I'm going to speak about one aspect, which is exposure to cold and sort of using breath work to stop getting flus, to stop getting colds, to make the respiratory system very robust, very strong. And I'm sure maybe some of you all have heard about the Wim Hof method. So this is a method that popularizes cold exposure, but a method that has been used by the yogis in the Himalayas for many generations. So I don't know if you've seen yogis in the Himalayas. They're up at 4 a.m. They're sitting on the banks of the rivers up in the mountains. They're doing their breathwork practice, and then they're jumping into that cold water, and it's sort of almost 0 degrees freezing water, and they're swimming and bathing in that water early in the morning. And what allows them to do that is by sort of using the breath, and we can use the breath to really give the body a shock, and also modulate a lot of the physiological processes that make us feel hot, cold. These can be done through the breath. So with regards to the cold exposure, what you do with certain kinds of breath work, actually these yogis are increasing the amount of carbon dioxide within the body. So when we are doing certain breath works that involve hyperventilating, so you're breathing very long and deep and fast, and then after that you're holding the breath while you leave all the air out. So you're exhaling and you're holding the breath without any air in the lungs. So this is of course not recommended for beginners, but for practitioners who've been practicing a long time. When you hold the breath on what they call external retention, with all the air outside of your system, when you do hold it like that, you're increasing the levels of carbon dioxide in your body. And actually, contrary to what many believe, when we have increased levels of carbon dioxide in the body, we are first of all increasing the cellular absorption of oxygen. So we all have between 94 to 98% of blood oxygen levels, and this doesn't change regardless of whether you breathe shallow or you breathe deep. But what does change is this oxygen that is in our bloodstream, how it gets absorbed into our cells, and that what facilitates that absorption into the cells is carbon dioxide. And thus, when we do this hyperventilation, when we do this breath retention after exhaling, we increase the carbon dioxide and thus also increase cellular oxygen absorption. And what happens is that ultimately, to be able to bear extreme cold, or if you're somebody who generally feels cold all the time, has a low immunity, catches the flu, it's very important to breathe in this way, to do these kind of practices that increase the carbon dioxide from time to time, because they allow us to be exposed to the cold and deal with cold exposure much better. So this is how, in one aspect, how breathing, when it's used with cold exposure, can also really boost your immune system. Another aspect where, when we do these kind of practices where we are increasing the carbon dioxide levels in our body. When we increase the carbon dioxide levels in our body, it is actually also beneficial to our bone health, because we are alkalizing our body. When our body has more carbon dioxide, for a while the body becomes alkaline. So on the pH scale, you have the acidic, which is the lower pH, and alkaline, which is higher pH, and your body enters this higher pH level, which allows basically your bones are not, when your body is too acidic all the time, it sort of draws the minerals from the bones, and an alkaline body sort of restores the minerals to the bones. So especially as we age, it's good to do these practices. Even if it's just 15 minutes a day, it helps to preserve our bone health. So nobody would really think that breathing has an impact on our bones, but it does, and it's very fundamental to bone health. So now I'm going to come into the second or the last section of this video, where I'm going to speak about how we can use the breath and how we must be breathing. What is the right way to breathe, the correct way to breathe? So first of all, something that is obvious for many of us is that we must be breathing through the nostrils. So when we breathe through the mouth, a lot of the gases that need to be absorbed by our respiratory system are not getting absorbed. So for instance, our body not only needs oxygen and carbon dioxide, but also needs gases like nitrous oxide, and the alveoli and the hair within the nostrils are very important for absorbing these different gases. Additionally, a lot of toxins in the environment, pollution in the air, is sort of filtered out when we breathe through the nose. That's the second reason why we should be breathing through the nose. And third is that the nose, the nostrils, especially if you live in very dry climates where the air is very dry, it's important to breathe through the nose so that the air that you're breathing in gets a little bit moisturized as it goes into the lungs. If you only breathe through the mouth, you might have a mucus buildup in your sinuses, in your head, because there is no humidity, or there's no moisture in the air, and thus the body is sort of producing that moisture by creating mucus. The second aspect of breathing is how we breathe in and out. So I would like you to just place your hand on your belly and taking a long inhale and exhaling completely, and just noticing whether your belly goes in or out when you breathe in. So when you take an inhale, ideally the right way to breathe is that your belly goes out, it expands. And when you exhale, the belly contracts. So when you inhale, belly goes out, exhale, belly contracts. This is very important, because this is not only affecting our nervous system, because when we breathe in this way, we are going into the parasympathetic nervous response, but this is also affecting our digestive potential, because by just that in and out flow, we are giving our internal organs a slight massage. If we breathe in the opposite breathing pattern, the reverse breathing pattern, which is when I inhale, I contract the belly, and when I exhale, I release the belly. This in medical science is called the paralyzed breathing pattern, and it is really, I mean, the word is a bit harsh, but it is really it is a dangerous way to breathe. And a lot of us nowadays, I observe so many people who breathe in this way, and this actually will eventually lead to anxiety, higher levels of stress. It's usually higher levels of stress that causes one to breathe in this way in the first place, and it's very important that we rectify this breathing pattern. If you do have this particular way of breathing or pattern of breathing, one way to help is to lie on your back, to place a small weight like a cushion on your belly, and to actively push against the cushion as you inhale, and allowing the cushion to fall as you exhale. Just by doing that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes before going to sleep will really help to bring your breath pattern into the right way. So this is a very ultimately very crucial way, and so any good yoga teacher will first analyze the way, the pattern that you're breathing, and tell you to sort of bring this back into balance so that you can live a life and have a mind that is more balanced. The third, of course, like I mentioned earlier, is the speed, or the how rapidly we are breathing. So ideally we want to really slow down the breath, And I'm sure in all cultures, all traditions, you meet the elderly, the elderly of the tradition. For instance, it was my grandmother, my grandfather, who would always, when I was, say, going somewhere to maybe perform on stage in school or do something that required would make me anxious, they would always say, take a deep breath, take a long deep breath in, long deep breath out. And this is sort of embedded in all traditions, all cultures. We each one of us know at the back of our head that breathing long deep breaths will sort of calm me down, but a lot of us don't actually implement this and don't practice this in our day-to-day life. And it's very important that we um, begin to really implement this and really focus on slowing down the breath whenever you're feeling anxious, whenever you're feeling uh, like you're running too much, your mind is racing, you cannot fall asleep in the night. It's as simple as just elongating the breath, as long inhales and as long exhales as is possible, and this will automatically bring your whole mind and your whole body into relaxation. Another thing that is, so I've covered three different topics in terms of how we should be breathing. One is breathing in and out through the nose. The second was breathing in and out into the belly, expanding the belly as you inhale, contracting as you exhale. The third was breathing, the speed of breathing, so how quickly you breathe and trying to calm and slow down the breath. And the last thing that I'm going to speak about is the dominance, the nasal dominance. So which nostril is dominant at what time. So if you just place your index finger underneath your nostrils and you exhale, exhale. And then after you do that, just breathing normally in and out through the nostrils. And just trying to notice which nostril is dominant. Is it the left nostril that's dominant, that's open, the right nostril that's open, or is it both nostrils that are open? So ideally, as we keep practicing pranayama, what's going to happen is that you're going to be breathing equally through both nostrils at all times, and this is the ideal way to breathe. This is what also balances our energy body, and I'm going to come to that in a moment. So for all normal purposes and normal people who are not practicing pranayama, usually our breath is shifting from the left nostril to the right nostril and back to the left about every 90 minutes to 2 hours. So every 2 hours our breath is shifting from one nostril to the other. And by doing breath works which require alternate nostril breathing patterns, we are somehow bringing these two sides or two aspects of our breath into balance. So in the yogic traditions, we have the energy body, and the energy body is comprised, the building blocks of this energy body are the nadis. So the nadis are energy channels that are transferring energy around the body. There are 72,000 nadis within the body. I'm sure many of us are familiar with the word chakra, and a chakra is basically a point where multiples of these nadis are intersecting. These nadis are also linked to our nostrils. There are two very important nadis, the Surya Nadi and the Chandra Nadi, which carry the energy of the sun and the moon. The Surya Nadi is also called the Pingala, and the Chandra Nadi is called the Ida. So the Surya Nadi is the right nostril, the Pingala. It might be inverted in the video, but just so you know, this is the right for me. So the Pingala and the Ida, the left. So when we are actively breathing more through the left nostril, it actually means our parasympathetic nervous system is, the rest and digest part of our nervous system is active. It's more the moon energy, more relaxation, connection, calmness that we feel. And when the right nostril is active, it's the sympathetic nervous system. It's the go-getting, the drive, the energetic aspect of our nervous system. So even just blocking one or the other nostrils and only breathing through one nostril for a few minutes can give us that, either that calming or that activating effect. And I would invite you to try that, though be careful of how long you do it. You don't want to do it for very long, because that might cause some imbalance in your system. So I know that might have been a lot for you to digest, but thank you for listening through to the end. And Stay tuned for more videos. Namaste.